Good morning, good morning. You are watching Deprogram with Ted Rall and John Kiriakou. It's Tuesday, October 28th, 2025. Thank you so much for joining us. John piping in from across the big water. Good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
Lots to talk about today. We're going to be getting into, we're going to handicap the 2028 presidential race. I'm going to pat myself on the back and say that my early prognostications appear to at least be currently looking good. We'll see if that lasts. The House Oversight Committee released its report about Joe Biden. Unsurprisingly, but perhaps probably correctly, it really slammed the former president for not being all there during much of the end of his presidency. And so there's some major constitutional and political questions to hash out about that. Shireen Abu Akleh, who was the Palestinian reporter who was killed by the IDF in the West Bank by a sniper. There's been some divisions. A lot of people on the left have long believed that she was targeted intentionally, or at least that a journalist was targeted intentionally. And now it seems that there were people who investigated this inside the U.S. government who believed that as well. We'll get into that division. Not everyone thought that. And, you know, a story tailor-made for us and specifically for you, John. Can't resist anything involving honey traps. It's an amusing and interesting topic. Reports are coming out that China and Russia are deploying them to seduce tech bros and try to get some cyber intelligence that way. So anyway, unfortunately, we have a programming note. Robbie West, our producer, is not with us today, and he probably won't be with us for the foreseeable future because someone doxed him. So someone called his employer and notified and basically told his employer that he had political views that they didn't like. Specifically, he was accused of being transphobic and anti-Semitic for criticizing Israel on this program. And so he's in trouble at work. He's been disciplined. He's lucky not to have been fired, obviously, but, you know, he probably doesn't feel very lucky. And, you know, I got to tell you, I mean, anyone who likes me or John or this show should know better, right? I mean, the thing is,
cowardly.
I mean, you know, this is a place where we have agreements and disagreements. And I don't believe, and I have always felt this way, and I've always said this, I have never believed in sanctioning anyone for their opinions. Back in the 1990s, when there was an effort to boycott the advertisers of Dr. Laura Schlesinger and Rush Limbaugh, who were both right-wing conservatives, I said this is a bad idea. We shouldn't be doing this. It's anti-American. It's anti-First Amendment. And it's something that we ought not to ever participate in, lest it one day be deployed against us on the left. And, you know, this has always been the way I felt. You know, Robbie's always been a welcome guest on this show. He is a good person. He's my friend. He's incredibly generous, and he's helped make this show what it is. And so whoever you are, you really suck, and you really hurt not just Robbie, but you also hurt John and I. And and you really kind of are contributing to the coarsening of, you know, this country and its ability to try to be able to work out problems. I mean, that's what polarization is. Polarization isn't when people disagree. Polarization is when people don't agree to disagree, when they decide that they're going to, you know, hurt and censor other people for disagreeing with them. So, you know, Robbie will probably pipe into the chat whenever he can, but it's not going to be the same without him.
No, that's right. I'm so upset about this. I think it's cowardly. I think it's scandalous. And I can't believe that somebody who watches the show would do such a thing, to try to ruin a man's livelihood, rat him out like that. To what end? For what purpose? I'm just sickened by the whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, it's disgusting. I mean, like obviously it was someone who was just like, look, I mean, we saw doxing, liberals be doxing, right? I mean, like liberals were doxing, J6ers and getting them fired from their jobs. I've been doxed many, many times and threatened because I'm too lefty. I mean, where does this end, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Three birds, one stone says it probably wasn't a person. It was, just guessing here, one of the many agencies employed by the Zionist machine. I don't know. I sure would like to find out.
That's certainly possible.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. It's just, so anyway, we're going to try to figure out what we can do for and with Robbie. We're going to have to assume it's a liberal snitch. I mean, I hate when someone, I don't consider myself a liberal. I consider myself a leftist, but those are, kind of people who I normally travel with and hang out with. And most people I know are liberal. And it's just it just sucks when someone does something like this. And by the way, Robbie asked me to pass this along. And I think it's really true. This is not a way to win hearts and minds. No one ever has been doxxed and had their livelihood threatened and their ability to feed their wife and kids threatened and come out of it and said, oh my God, I'm going to totally change my political opinions to match the person who's trying to kill me and my family. I love them. They're right. That's never going to work. We'll I'm sure talk about this again in the future, but John, what do you want to talk about? 2028 Biden report.
Yeah, let's talk about 2028. The
Abu
Biden report is
Akleh.
just going to make me mad. Yeah. 2028. So the Democratic National Committee is essentially telling us that we all must support Pete Buttigieg. Buttigieg is the guy, which of course we all predicted. I'm here to tell you, Buttigieg ain't the guy. I think that's just not going to happen. I think he's deceptively conservative. I don't think that many Americans will vote for a gay man. They're just not ready for it. And I hate so much when Democratic backroom, movers and shakers tell us who to support. So as you note there on the screen, Buttigieg is leading in a 2028 New Hampshire poll. It's very, very, very early. But this was done on purpose because the DNC wants us to support Pete Buttigieg. Just like they wanted us to support Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton and all these other losers that they handpick from the DNC. Not doing it.
Right, and I think I think also it's an interesting tea leaf to read from the DNC was Kamala Harris's book, right, where she said that she would have picked Pete Buttigieg as her running mate, and then said she didn't have the guts to do that because she thought it would be too much diversity on one ticket. She's probably right about that. But so obviously the tee up here is the Democratic Party seems, the DNC seems really more interested in sort of ticking identity politics boxes than they are in, winning elections. Look, Pete Buttigieg, I can really see why they turned in his direction. They think that he can probably put the big tent together. They think that, the LGBT connection will bring in progressives, or at least some progressives. Of course, Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris thought that the woman thing would do that, and it didn't. It's about policies. I mean, they just don't get progressives. It's always about policies for progressives. They don't care about anything else. That's why they voted for the old white guy, Bernie Sanders. It's about the policies. It's not. They didn't vote for him because he was white. They voted or despite. It just doesn't matter. I thought what was interesting was that, obviously Pete, I think, is a natural kind of also, reaction to 4 years or 8 years, depending on how you want to count them, because they weren't contiguous, of Donald Trump. Obama followed the very calm Spock-like Obama, stealing that from Maureen Dowd. Was a reaction to the spazzy kind of manic George W. Bush in terms of tone and temperament. The Pete Buttigieg is a bit of an automaton, and he's kind of a reaction to, again, a manic kind of spazzy, wild and crazy Donald Trump.
Yeah.
So I could see them also sort of doing it this way. People have been asking in the chat if we can, donate some money toward Robbie. Yeah, we're gonna organize that. John and I have to put our heads together, and we'll have like a day or two where we just, raise some money for Robbie, and we'll let you know when that is. But we always appreciate your donations to the show, and we are remonetized on Super Chat and everything. Please follow, and share the show. Again, if you're just tuning in, we're here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Tomorrow is a rerun show, but the chat will be live. So feel free to come in and talk to each other. But John and I will not be here. We both have stuff to do tomorrow. But we'll be back on Thursday. Anyway, I mean, that's funny. I hadn't immediately thought this is the DNC shoving this down our throats, John. But you're right. It always is. They can't help themselves. They have to put their thumb on the scale always.
To tell you the truth, I don't give two shits who Pete Buttigieg has sex with. I don't care. It's none of my business. I have zero interest in it. So supporting somebody just because he has sex with a man, I just don't understand the rationale. What I do care about is that in his 4 years of federal experience, Pete Buttigieg proved that he was literally the worst Secretary of Transportation in American history. It seems like every time there was a transportation emergency, whether it was a train derailment or a train strike or the truckers' strike, the guy was on vacation in some foreign country every single time. He didn't even bother to go to East Palestine, Ohio for months, to the best of my recollection, after the train derailed there and spread deadly chemicals all over the place. So the guy was a terrible, terrible Secretary of Transportation. Why should we then reward him, rather, by making him the Democratic presidential nominee? I'm not getting it. And listen, you speak 16 languages. Awesome. Congratulations. You're a genius. But all you've ever done is you were the mayor of a town of like 9,000 people in Indiana. That doesn't qualify you to be president of the United States. And aren't you tired of having unqualified presidents? I am.
Well, we had an unqualified. Yeah, I mean, but he speaks good, John.
He does.
He speaks real good.
Yeah,
so the thing about
he talks good.
Wasn't he talk real good? Wasn't he also like wasn't he like a sort of a Radar O'Reilly kind of character in the Iraq War? Like he was a supply guy, right?
Yeah,
and
right.
And then later he when he ran for president, he claimed that he was like this, badass, like G.I. Joe
combat guy, right? Right. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, well, the funny part, my brief against Buttigieg first is twofold, most of all. Number one, it's like he went he took paternity leave his first year in office, right? Now, the thing is, you might say, well, it's unexpected. But see, this is where the fact that he fucks guys does come into play, because his husband and him, they by definition planned this out. Right? They know when they're going to have a kid. Like, quote unquote, heterosexual couples don't always know, but they know. And so literally it's like, hey, aren't you going to be Secretary of Transportation next year? Maybe let's kick the can down the road a few years. We're both young. It'll be fine. Let's go ahead and do it. We'll just take 6 months off. I mean, it's not an important job. And then the other part was, I looked into this. I wanted to know how many buses and, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, was in charge of, in the train. So you're going to die. So there's like there's, as you'd imagine, there's like, I don't know, 50. But here's the thing. They're all under control of a separate transportation authority. So the mayor of South Bend has literally zero to do with public transportation.
Oh my God.
so,
Oh my God.
so it's
See, the
literally
guy's not
you're not even
qualified.
getting someone from the Regional Transit Authority of South Bend
Yeah.
who would have been far more qualified than the mayor.
Yeah. He's just simply not qualified. It's
No.
as simple as that.
But on the other
Very
hand, I mean,
smart.
now with Donald Trump, you can say that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Now that's what we're supposed to believe. It doesn't matter. Because you're right. He checks these boxes that are important to the DNC. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm not buying it.
we do have to answer Mr. Athenian's question here. Let's talk about Steve Bannon's remarks that Donald Trump will absolutely get a third term.
Yeah.
And that we just all have to get used to it.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not happening. The Constitution is crystal clear. You're allowed 2 tries, 2 elections rather. He was elected 2 times. That's it. It's over.
And it doesn't matter that they're non-contiguous, right?
It doesn't make any
and it doesn't matter
difference.
if he runs as vice president and then the vice president resigns.
Nope. Does not matter. He cannot run for another term, period.
Okay, well, so the thing is, who enforces it, right? Obviously, the Supreme Court enforces it.
Yes.
Would they?
They're going to have to. Otherwise, we have anarchy in the country. I'm going to predict if they don't, we're going to have riots in the streets, like unprecedented uprising in the streets. Because
Agreed.
then nothing in the Constitution will mean anything.
Right. It becomes a dead letter at that point. No question.
Yeah.
Yep. We should also talk about, we should give a passing thought to JD Vance. Not surprisingly, the sitting vice president and appointed heir to MAGA is leading the polls on the Republican side in New Hampshire. He's got a lot bigger of a lead than Buttigieg has on his side. So Vance has 51% of the New Hampshire vote.
Right.
And these others, like the others who are coming in number 2, 3, 4, are Nikki Haley. I had forgotten about her. Is she still alive? Tulsi and Marco Rubio in that order. Yeah. I would have thought Marco would be a little bit higher up, just because he's sitting Secretary of State. And he hasn't fucked up or anything. I mean, I personally can't stand him, but I don't know.
Yeah. That surprises me. I would have expected 2 things surprise me. I would have expected Rubio to score higher this early on because he's a name that's been out there for a long time. He ran for president in 2016. He's been in the Senate forever, and he's still a young man. So I would have expected Rubio to be higher. You know who we don't see is Ted Cruz, right? Ted Cruz is telling everybody who's willing to listen that he's going to run for president again. He's going to lose again, of course, but he doesn't even factor into this. Like he's an afterthought.
Yeah, that's funny, right? I mean, I think Ted Cruz ruined himself, first of all, by being cucked by Trump over letting him smear his father as a Kennedy assassin, as the man on the grassy knoll. Right. And I think the beard did him no favors either.
I agree.
He just looks like a weirdo.
Yeah.
I mean, and if you're going to do the beard, you got to go like Hamid Karzai. Like that's a good looking, like that's a robust, manly, but like it conveys like this is a man who's got it together, who maintains a beard that looks like that. I briefly had a beard that looked like that, and I'm like, I think I gained like 2 points on the 10 scale just from that beard. But like when you have a raggedy ass beard, like a Ted Kaczynski beard, it's not good. So
no.
Optics really matter. I mean, people might be like, this is an analysis show, and it is, but this shit is part of the analysis,
Well, people say, scholars told us back in 1948 that Thomas Dewey lost because he lost to Harry Truman because he had a mustache, and it just reminded too many people of Adolf Hitler. And in the immediate
Yep.
aftermath of the Second World War, they were not willing to vote for a guy with a mustache.
Yeah, it's funny. I was literally just looking at a Thomas Dewey button in my collection a couple days ago, and I was thinking, that's a weird mustache. He also kind of looked like a jazz guy.
Yeah.
There's a black reporter, I think he's on NBC, who also has this like jazz guy, kind of like a mustache, and I'm always like, it's very, very strange. Real is asking us about the Cameroon crisis. I'm glad this came up too. Does the opposition include both Anglophone and Francophonic components? So the president of Cameroon is the oldest and longest continually serving political leader in the world, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right.
He's pushing 100, right? And he's old as shit, and so he just got reelected. Got to use those scare quotes. And so this was one of those things where there's sort of the Gen Z uprisings all over the world, and the Gen Z people on the street were kind of like, don't do it. Don't fucking do it. We know what you want to do. Don't do it. They did it. So the Cameroonians are pissed off.
Yeah.
And my understanding here is that this is more of a Francophonic, kind of street protest, but not uniquely. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I'm hearing the same thing. I was surprised to see the video that was all over the international media yesterday. People are really mad, like in the streets, setting stuff on fire, kind of mad.
They're right. They're totally right.
They are. They're right.
I mean, it's a fucking dictatorship. I mean,
Yeah, it is. And there's a lot going on in Chad right now too. Just today, the Chadian Minister of Education announced that schools are closed until further notice. Why? Because Al-Qaeda has cut off gas shipments, and so there's no way to heat the schools. So they shut them down.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see, we're going to see more rebellion. And it's funny too, right? Like the way the coverage has been about Cameroon in the Western press is kind of like, they just don't get it. And it's like, I'm just seeing, every day I see more and more indications that they have reporters who are either being censored vigorously or are just too young and inexperienced to know what they're doing. I mean, did you see the article in the New York Times yesterday about Josh Shapiro and how he's recovering from the firebombing of his house?
Yes, I saw the article today.
And like the thing is, okay, like let's be clear here. No one should be doxxed for being transphobic, and no one should have their house firebombed for being pro-Israel. Fact. That said, the way that they characterized him in the article, they said it's uncertain why it happened, what the motives of the guy who did it, who had mental illness, were. However, some people have accused him of being a little too pro-Israel. Literally, that's how they put it. A little too pro. And I'm like, he's been videotaped signing bombs that were dropped on Palestinian civilians with a big ass grin on his face. Okay, That's not a little too pro-Israel. That's being a Zionist maniac.
Yeah.
And you're on team genocide all the way. You're not even like, oh, Jews need their own place too. This is like the ancestral homeland. No, it's not even that argument. It's like, no, I want to kill Palestinians. That's what it is.
That's the bottom line. Remember, this guy served in the IDF. He didn't join the American military. He joined the Israeli military. He should run for Prime Minister of Israel, not President of the United States.
Yeah, he might stand a better chance than Netanyahu.
Yeah, he probably
He's
would.
certainly probably more popular.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
So, all right. So before we move on from the 2028, because we do have a lot to talk about, JD Vance, he's sitting pretty right now. Basically, he's just like thinking, don't fuck up. Don't let Trump have a third term. Stay the course and I will be president.
Yeah.
Is that true? Because I mean, he doesn't seem to me like the Brady Bunch episode where Greg gets recruited by a Svengali type character, and he's forming
because
a
he fit the suit.
He fit the suit, and
Right.
JD Vance fit the suit, but that doesn't mean JD Vance has the certain. I mean, look, anybody who denies that Donald Trump has the Riz is a fool. He has the Riz, and he has it in spades. But JD Vance doesn't have that kind of Riz. Will MAGA world accept the Dauphin as the new king?
Uh-huh. Yeah, that's a really good question and an important issue. Funny thing, Trump never really appeared to like Mike Pence very much. Called him an idiot, called him a moron, called him a retard, all kinds of words like that. And JD Vance, Trump appears to have gone out of his way to school JD Vance in how to be a leader, a senior leader.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny to me is in these notional Republican polls, they still include, for example, Donald Trump Jr. to see what his level of support is. Well, Donald Trump doesn't want Don Jr. to be president. He appears to want JD Vance to be president.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm surprised that he's been so public about his grooming of Vance when he's got Rubio being not just Secretary of State, but National Security Advisor as well, and a former senator for a hell of a lot longer than the 2 years JD Vance was a senator. So I'm surprised that he's come out so strongly for Vance. I would have thought that, like Ronald Reagan, he would have waited until the field thins a little bit and then make his announcement or his endorsement. But it's clear right now that Trump wants JD Vance to be the nominee.
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, there's the bigger question of whether JD Vance can, be elected. And I don't know. I mean, this might be really a hate off kind of, race. If it's it's Buttigieg versus Vance. I mean, again, people like me are like, I got to go third party or not at all. Right. I mean, there's nothing there. All right. Are we done with 2020H, or
Sure.
we could move on to 2024 and the Biden report?
Yeah. Well,
all right, let's talk about this Biden report. So obviously, there's nothing new really to talk about in terms of Joe Biden being, having been incapacitated. And what this basically seems to center, this report mainly centers around is, of course, what is being called auto pen gate. And, the idea that the auto pen was used to sign Joe Biden's name to stuff that he was not aware of, right? So the way it's supposed to work is President Kiriakou is away, or maybe he's just has a cold or whatever, and then President Kiriakou calls Secretary Rall and says, "Hey, Ted, can you auto pen that pardon of that spy?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'll take care of that for you." And then that's it. That is acceptable. It's weird, but that's how it has worked.
And it's always been acceptable. It's always been acceptable. Almost everything that presidents sign is auto penned.
It's weird because Louis XIV couldn't do that. Louis XIV had to personally affix his signature and wax seal to, otherwise it wasn't a royal edict, right? But anyway, it's strange. It works that way. So apparently there's considerable evidence, and I can't say this is surprising to me, but they subpoenaed and dragged in a lot of his former staffers, some of whom took the Fifth Amendment, others of whom basically confirmed that he signed up, that the auto pen signed off on stuff like pardons and executive orders that that Biden didn't know shit about, was never told about. We're not even getting into, whether he would have been able to understand it or not, if he was too mentally or physically frail. That's not even the issue here. The issue is that he didn't know. The doctor, Kevin O'Connor, and Jill Biden's chief of staff, Anthony Bernal, who was part of the so-called Politburo, according to the book by Jake Tapper. Of course, I would encourage anyone who hasn't seen our interview with Jake to go back and look at that. basically both took the fifth, but Dr. O'Connor basically didn't administer any cognitive tests or neurological tests to the president at all, but then basically said, "Oh, he's good. He's fit as a fiddle." John, when my mother was dying of Alzheimer's, we found out she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I was in the room when the doctor diagnosed her. He administered a bunch of tests. It was, I'll say, chilling to watch. My mom, this with all, no exaggeration, the most brilliant person I've ever known in my life, had just declined to the point where she didn't know her own age, and she didn't know the name of the supermarket where she went. At that point, I was like, well, I'm taking the keys, right? But the point is that he didn't even do that. So this doctor didn't do that. It's the president of the United States, and we have no procedure, right? It's basically all voluntary. It's like whatever they want to do. Okay, so there's so much to dig into here. First of all, don't we need a set of procedures that govern, that sort of where there's some kind of committee that assesses the ability of the president to mentally and physically to serve, right? Don't we need something like that?
We do. In a way, that's what the 25th Amendment is supposed to be. But it leads to another question. Where other countries, Western countries, advanced economies, have systems where a president or prime minister can be removed with some relative ease, why don't we have the same kind of system? The system that we have now is that the vice president has to tell the cabinet that he or she believes the president is unable to serve. And then the cabinet has to go through a period where they observe the president, ignoring the fact that most cabinet members only see the president but once a month for lunch. And then the cabinet has to decide whether to remove the president. It has never happened in the history of the country. Ronald Reagan was demented. Joe Biden was demented. Donald Trump, who knows, maybe at the early stages, judging by some of his behavior. But we just don't remove our leaders. And it's to the detriment of the country that we don't. We shouldn't be afraid of setting a precedent.
Well, and because the thing is that the person who triggers this, right, the vice president, is literally the person who stands to benefit the most from the removal of the president, because they will ascend to the presidency. I mean, I'm going to go back and look at the people who passed the 25th Amendment. I mean, this was ratified by 2/3 of the states, right? I mean, what the fuck were they thinking? This is a stupid fucking system. I mean,
stupid system.
I mean, it's really retarded.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so, and then it also, brings up the question of accountability. I mean, is anyone in Biden world ever going to be called on the carpet or charged with anything? And then there's the question of the executive orders and pardons that were signed by an auto pen that basically seemed to have a life of its own.
Yeah.
I mean, does that mean? I mean, surely those should be invalidated, right? But
Yeah.
I would think
I think
by
they
the U.S.
probably
Supreme
should.
Court.
I think they probably should, but there's no mechanism by which to invalidate them. That's the problem. There's no law that says, well, if the president's demented, then XYZ, has to be reversed. We don't have such a law.
John,
It's funny
go ahead.
when the 25th Amendment was being written, the purpose of it was to prevent another situation like we had under President Woodrow Wilson, where the president is completely debilitated by a stroke. Nobody can get in to see him, and the first lady is essentially the president. That's what it was meant to
But
correct.
what's so funny
Why in
about
the world?
that is that even if under Wilson, his vice president, he would never have triggered it. Marshall, never. Temperamentally, that guy never would have pulled the 25th Amendment trigger. It wouldn't have worked under Wilson.
No, you're right. It wouldn't have worked under Wilson, because you're right. The vice president has to pull the trigger.
And basically,
it can't be up to,
the majority vote of the cabinet. And they all have, so you're asking the person who stands to benefit the most and who will be looked at as a self-dealer extraordinaire to trigger the process. And then you need a simple majority vote from the people who've been appointed by the guy that they're being asked to get rid of.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's like, I guess it's almost like the people who wrote the 25th Amendment never heard the 3 words conflict of interest before.
Yeah, you got that right.
It's very strange. And then, of course, John, I was going to ask you more broadly. How often do you think about, like, when you're a kid, we all were kids, and we're told the American constitutional system is pure genius. Its system of checks and balances was ingenious beyond belief. It was foolproof. That's why it served us over 200 years. It's like, and looking now, I'm like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that it was divinely inspired.
If like, so, actually, I want a new God.
What it does is it 100% ensures gridlock. It's
maybe if God is a retard. If God has Alzheimer's, well, he's real old, so he could have Alzheimer's.
Right. So, what a mess.
Totally.
What a complete mess. But then you look at some of the people that Biden pardoned, besides his crackhead, meth head son, a Chinese spy, the judge in Pennsylvania who literally sold children into bondage, only to have several of them commit suicide. Those are the people. I could get behind
the death penalty for that judge.
Yeah, seriously, I could too. Yes, and I'm anti-death penalty.
Me too.
I could too. Yeah. Ridiculous.
All right. So I guess we probably should talk about Abu Akleh, right?
This makes me so angry.
So obviously Shireen Abu Akleh was the Palestinian American journalist, very well known, Al Jazeera, right?
Al Jazeera. She was the top international reporter for Al Jazeera. And if it matters at all, she was Christian, Greek Orthodox.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it does matter. I mean, it shouldn't matter, but it does matter, like for context, just as a reminder that it's not just a Muslim versus Jew thing over there. Anyway, the IDF. Some facts are not in dispute. An IDF sniper shot her, and then the IDF said, well, we didn't know she was a reporter. She was wearing a vest that clearly said press or media, I forget which.
Yes.
And also the IDF had been notified that there were reporters in the area, so they were well aware of that fact. So basically, the U.S. Security Coordinator is the office that reviewed this incident, and there was a division among the people on this team that has just been revealed now, where Colonel Steve Gabovix, he was the former chief of staff of this office, so not a schlub. Mm-hmm. And he said that basically there was a cover-up, that there was radio traffic awareness, and he also several other investigators went to the scene. They walked over to where the sniper's position had been, who delivered the fatal shot. And they said they could clearly see the spot. It was unobstructed. It wasn't hard to see, even with the naked eye, much less through a sniper's,
scope.
What's that? Scope. Yeah.
Yeah, scope.
So therefore, so I mean, they could see very clearly. And so the question, no one's really arguing that Abu Akleh was sort of targeted specifically for being her, although that's certainly possible knowing the IDF. But they're arguing that, like, hey, there's a reporter and we're going to shoot her. And so Gabovix is on a tear, and he's fighting with his former boss, Lieutenant General Michael Fenzel, who basically is saying, well, Gabovix is wrong. So this is, I mean, we were not told that there was such a division. We were told it's just like tragic circumstances. It's just, it's basically file it under shit happens.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I agree. You know, I was especially angry when Shireen Abu Akleh was killed. I knew her a little bit from Al Jazeera. I used to be the counterterrorism consultant at Al Jazeera. I did that for 2 years. And she was the most highly respected, the most important journalist at the network. Everybody knew her. Everybody loved her. She was famous. She had an apartment in Washington, so she did a lot of reporting from Washington. And then she's in Israel. She's wearing a bulletproof vest and a bulletproof helmet that say press, press. And she was shot in the face by an Israeli sniper.
You know, there's nothing new here. I mean, it's a dirty secret is that the military often targets reporters. When I was in Afghanistan, we knew that. Like one thing that we were all told was we were worried about being targeted by the U.S. actually, and it was the belief of most of the international press corps, including Americans, that if you used your Thuraya or your Iridium sat phone, you might be targeted. They didn't have drones yet, but that you might be missile attacked, and it was good to make your call like in a cup for a few minutes and then change positions.
Yeah, and you know, to make matters worse, her funeral was held in the Palestinian territories in the West Bank. The pallbearers were carrying her coffin out of the church to go to the cemetery. And IDF soldiers went inside the church and beat the pallbearers to the point where they dropped the coffin.
I remember that. It's a fucking fiasco.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. Thank you. Is it rational? 275 journalists killed in Gaza alone. Of course, many of them are stringers because Israel still isn't allowing Western reporters or for that matter, Asian reporters in. They're not. That does not make a stringer any less of a real reporter. It's just you know, putting some flesh on the bones of that story. But to put that into perspective, right? My convoy in Afghanistan had a total of 45 journalists, right? 8 were killed. That until up through 2001 was the highest number of journalists who'd ever been killed in a single conflict. Now we're at 275 in Gaza.
I mean, God, in only 2 years.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And we let the Israelis get away with it without so much as a complaint.
I really hope that Netanyahu goes too far without killing anybody. Just like does something to piss off Donald Trump so bad that Trump stops returning his calls. I think that would be awesome.
Well, as we said yesterday, day before yesterday, Donald Trump said that he runs Israel, which I thought was very funny.
Well, that's kind of true, actually, right? Even though it's not something that they ever like to say, but it is true.
I've read that Netanyahu has been shocked that so many Americans think that he controls American foreign policy. It's like, well, of course he controls American foreign policy. Why is he shocked? That's been his goal all along.
Yeah. No, it's yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing is he controls American foreign policy, and we think that we're Israel's bitch, but Israel is our bitch, and this is a very strange, dumb sub relationship.
Yeah, it should be. That's for sure.
Yeah,
it should be, but it's not.
Very, 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 very strange shit. Okay, so I guess we should talk about this story. How seriously you take this, right? At the agency, were honey traps a real thing? According to the reports here, there's a ton of basically a honey trap is a hot chick who seduces. I guess you could have a honey trap for a woman, right? I don't know if that's ever happened where you had a hot guy,
Sure.
a woman target, but most targets are guys, right? So most targets are guys. You have a woman basically from Russia or China. They're going on LinkedIn and they're going to tech conferences and they're seducing tech bros and trying to extract IP and other information. According to this report, $600 billion a year of industrial espionage happens here. Is this a real story or is this bullshit?
Well, from the U.S. side, we do not use honeypots or honey traps offensively against other intelligence services or other intelligence targets. We stopped in the 1970s. They weren't reliable. They didn't work out very well. But when I left the agency, and I've been gone for a while now, when I left the agency, the Russians and the Chinese, but especially the Russians, were very, very much using honeypots. Yes. See, if you're a CIA officer or an FBI agent, you're trained to, resist this kind of thing. You report it immediately. You're supposed to be cognizant that you may be targeted. But if you're just Joe Blow working at Northrop Grumman, you haven't had that kind of training, or you haven't heard a counterintelligence warning that the Russians or the Chinese or the Israelis are going to try to get to you to get your information using a sexy woman. So sure they do. They use them all the time.
Gotcha. Sorry, I'm doing stuff that Robbie normally would be doing, but he's not here. Oh my God, it's so annoying. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so I guess, so do you think, I guess there was an argument, there was an assertion that the so-called P-tape would be kind of like a Russian honey trap operation, right? We know it didn't happen, but let's just say for the sake of argument that, something, this argument is also that there's kind of like that TV show, The Americans, there's a long con that there are people who actually are assigned to not only seduce a dude and get some pillow talk out of him, but even to marry them, to go that far and become like a long-term operative who sleep, so you have people like, I guess you get like a hot chick like Anna Chapman from Russia to go after, whatever, Sergey Brin or someone like that, and get stuff out of them. I mean, do other intelligence agencies do this? Do they find it more effective than we do, or?
No, most of them don't. Most of them have concluded that it's a waste of time, because you're not going to get a lasting relationship that way. And you're going to get way, way more information with a lasting relationship. If I can convince you that I am your best friend to the point that you're willing to commit espionage for me, that's a relationship that they're going to want us to cultivate. But if you send a woman to, bed this guy after he picks her up in a bar, that's not a lasting relationship that's going to lead him to commit espionage. It just generally doesn't work.
What would you say is the most famous example of a honey trap in espionage, or the most famous case?
Well, there was one that we had at the there was one that we had at the agency that we were taught in training, where we directed a honeypot against an Iranian religious leader before the revolution, and she had sex with him. We had the room wired for cameras, and we took pictures of them in every position from every angle. And then we bumped into him to force a meeting, and we said, "Look, we've got these pictures." And we laid out the pictures, and he said, "Ooh, I'll take that one in an 8x10 and give me 2 of these in 5x7. And how about wallet size for these ones? I'm going to pass them out to my friends. He told us, get the fuck out of here. I'm not going to work for you guys. And that was kind of the one event that pushed it over the edge where this is a bad idea. It doesn't work. And we're just not going to do it anymore.
Gotcha. Because it's, it's just sort of assumed like, well, sex is a very potent motivating force.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Rebellious rainbow
you've got to
unicorn.
be awfully
Is that what
horny to
Melania
fall for
is?
something like that.
Oh yeah, Epstein honeypot thoughts. That is like, that's the assumption, right? Is that Epstein basically trafficked, well, that some people believe that Epstein trafficked some of his underage girls, or maybe not all underage, but young girls, to compromise people. I don't know. I'm still, I never really believed that. I think he didn't share. I think he kept everything for himself. But the reluctance of this administration to release those files has really, made me suspicious where I never was before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I say, it leads me to conclude that other countries certainly are doing it. And the Russians are famous for it. The Israelis are famous for it. I would have to assume that the Chinese do this kind of thing as well. Because the Chinese are almost exclusively interested in tech. Whether it's civilian tech or defense tech, it's tech. And what you do is just target these nerds in Northern California or at the defense contractors and hope for the best.
Martina V says, Mordecai Vanunu, in 1986, a female Mossad agent lured Vanunu, a nuclear technician, from London to Rome with the promise of a romantic liaison. Once in Rome, he was drugged. That's pretty funny.
He was drugged in Rome and kidnapped and brought back to
John, question for you. Do you know anything about the near assassination of the Shah of Iran back in the 1950s? I assume this is Reza Pahlavi, not the one that was overthrown. Gun was in a camera and the bullet went through his military cap. Not sure who did it or why. John?
Don't know. That I don't know. Oh, no. Hey, breaking news, Ted. We just bombed 3 more boats off the coast of Venezuela.
3? Yeah. Clearly Yeah, I did. I got that. That's horrible. 3. Obviously Trump's trying to spook, the Venezuelans into toppling their regime. I don't think it's going to work this way. I think he could blow up every boat in Venezuela. It's not going to work. John? Hello?
Man, I'm sorry, man. My connection is so bad. Let me move over to the window.
We've only got to get through 3 more minutes.
Hello? Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you. So, all right. So obviously, how far do you think Donald Trump is willing to go to get rid of Nicolas Maduro? And then that's part A. And part B, who does he want to? Yes, John, do you hear me? Hello? Hello?
Can you hear me, Ted?
Yes, I hear you now. You're freezing, though.
Can you hear me now, Ted? Ted?
Yeah, I hear you. Yes.
Sorry, man. My connection is terrible.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, my God. Okay, there's John. Okay.
Here we go.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Let's just go with the phone from now, like starting on Thursday.
This is the phone.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
All right. So I heard about the 3 boats. How far do you think Trump is willing to go to overthrow Nicolas Maduro? Is he what does he have in mind for a post-Maduro Venezuela? Who's going to run it?
I think this is all about keeping the Chinese out of the Caribbean. The Chinese buy more oil from Venezuela than anybody else does now. The Chinese built a refinery in the Caribbean to clean the sulfur out of Venezuela's notoriously high sulfur dirty oil. I think this is really not about Maduro so much as it's about the Chinese and pushing them back. And I don't think he cares who runs Venezuela so long as it's not Maduro. I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I said earlier to a friend, I wouldn't be surprised if Maduro ends up in Havana. And he said, no, he's not going to stay in Havana. He'll go all the way to Moscow.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I have to do some tech stuff for TMI anyway. Yeah. And I will smooth out this process and become not quite as good as Robbie, but I'll become like 1/10 as good as Robbie, which will have to suffice. Thanks everyone. Hold on. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Please like, follow, and share the show. We're here Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. You're watching Deprogram with Ted Rall and John Kiriakou. Please stay tuned. TMI show with me and Manila Chan is coming up in right at 10 o'clock Eastern time. That's just in a couple of minutes. And thank you, and we will see you later. Please, please think of Robbie, and we'll come up with some way to finance him so he can quit that stupid fucking job of his. Okay, bye everyone.
Bye.